Good morning. This morning we're going to talk about the most iconic and recognizable Rolex, probably worldwide. It's the steel and gold Submariner. Hi, it's Meg from SwissWatchExpo. We spend most of our day answering all kinds of great questions, and I always want to be able to share some of those answers with you. So today we're going to look at the Rolex Steel and Gold Submariner specifically. The Submariner is celebrating its 70th anniversary this year, which we're all very proud of, and it's been an incredible storied history. The steel and gold one in particular, I'll tell you a little bit more about, but that in and of itself is such a special timepiece. We happen to be fortunate enough to have 3 different generations of the watch. We're always being asked some questions that are key questions about the differences in the generations, so I thought I'd share those with you today. Just to give you a little bit of background, I mentioned in the intro, we're celebrating the 70th anniversary of the Submariner. It started in 1953, very iconic timepiece. It was really meant to be a tool. Jacques Cousteau actually had a big influence on one of the designers with Rolex to understand that they needed a watch that wasn't just a piece of jewelry, that actually was functional. So Rolex Submariner was the first water-resistant watch to 100 meters, and it was important in its construction with the oyster case and also the twin lock crown system. So a lot of innovative features that Rolex brought to the forefront. There's a competitor out there that was doing it about the same time. Interestingly enough, because of the patent that the other guys had, Rolex couldn't put a unidirectional bezel on it until the mid-80s when their patent was over. But before then, it had to be bidirectional. So that's okay. It was still a phenomenal timepiece. It was still the 100-meter water resistance on it, and very, very popular. The 80s actually were a very important time frame for the Rolex Submariner. We love the Submariner in that it's iconic and recognizable. Most of the time when people talk about it, you'll hear the word most. As far as one of the most durable, one of the most recognizable. It's also one of the most frequently copied and faked. So that's why it's most important that you buy your Rolex Submariner from SwissWatchExpo. We have the most experts here in our Swiss watch atelier to let you know that everything has been fully authenticated and completely serviced. So we're the ones that have the most experts in being able to make sure that you're getting the authentic Rolex Submariners, always from SwissWatchExpo. But back to the watches. So in the mid-80s, it was a very important time for the Rolex Submariners. There's a couple things that happened. They were finally able to put on the unidirectional bezel. And in 1984, they actually introduced the steel and gold Submariner, which is, again, the most advertised watch. Probably worldwide, that you see, I keep using the word most, but that's just what it applies to it, that you see most frequently. It's still very, very recognizable, classic, beautiful. The blue dial and bezel is so striking, just the combination. It's a stunning timepiece. That came about in the 80s. The other big difference or big change that happened in the 80s for Rolex was the 904L steel, which is really an upgrade to the quality of the steel that they make with their products. They are one of the few watchmakers that have their own foundry, so they create their own gold, their own precious metals, their own steel, and they really control the quality of that. And all of that quality is put into each and every one of their timepieces. But I want to show you, I want to give you a little bit of background and history, but I want to show you the 3 generations of the watches that we have. This is the 16613. The 13 is the indication that it's the steel and gold. Again, has been around since the mid-80s and is pretty much unchanged for quite some time. Iconic, striking. This particular one in the steel and gold, everybody's very familiar with. And then it stayed fairly unchanged for many, many years, and that's probably one of the other most that you can, it's the most recognizable in that it was consistent in its design from the 50s. They didn't really have a lot of major changes in the watch until 2010. And that's when they went from the 16613 to the 116613. So the 116613. They actually changed. I want to make sure I picked up the right watch for you. They changed the case and the exterior of the watch quite a bit. Of course, the biggest and most recognizable change in that is they went to the Cerachrome bezels. I want to show you side by side, obviously, the original 16613 bezel colors. And what's fun about the 16613s is that blue bezel, you'll find them in different color tones and different variations. Some of them are a deeper purple, some of them are a different blue, but there are some variations, and that makes them a lot of fun to really collect and see which color tone on that you like. But in 2010, 16613, beautiful timepiece, the Cerachrome bezel. It doesn't fade, it doesn't scratch, so it will always be this beautiful bright blue. And they made a couple of other changes. The watch has for a long, long time been a 40 millimeter. These are both 40 millimeters, but clearly the 116613 appears much larger, even though technically they're the same millimeter. That's because they went to the super case. They beefed up the lugs, they went to the maxi dial that has much more bold numbers and hands on it as far as the markers and the hands. And so overall it wears to be a much bigger watch. The other very important change that they made to the watch at this period of time is the bracelet. A lot of the changes that were made to the watch when they introduced the 116613 were actually external, and most importantly to the bracelet of the watch. The gold links are now all solid links on here, and they've changed the clasp. They have this beautiful thick to point clasp on here, but also the slide clasp. The previous watches had more of an extension where you could fold it out for the wetsuit or move it within the holes in the case, but this one you can slide. It's an easy clasp, it's very comfortable, not only for quick adjustments if you're actually diving, but just for everyday wear. So incredible changes to the exterior of the watch, from the bezel, the maxi dial, the super case, the solid links and bracelets. But what's interesting, and a lot of people don't think about, they all had the same movement in them. There's still the 31-35 movement in those. So as much change as they made to the exterior of the watch, internally, the same movement. It actually wasn't until 2020 that they made their next change. And I found it kind of interesting when they did this, because I actually was working with an authorized dealer in 2010, when this Cerachrome bezel was introduced, the maxi case. And those of us who are set in our ways, perhaps, are used to what we know, comfortable with what we like, there was a lot of controversy, or conversation, I guess is the better word for it, between the case when it was originally from the 16613 and the 116613 in that super case. A lot of people didn't like those beefier, bulkier lugs on it. A lot of people didn't like the fact that there was a greater variation from the size of the lugs down to the bracelet. You didn't have that kind of elegance that you had. It was just a more bulky look overall, and it was very divisive among the Rolex fans. Some people loved it, some people did not love it. So Rolex, in response to that, in 2020, recently, brought out their most recent steel and gold Submariner, the 126613. The first thing they did is they made it 41 millimeters. You would ask, why would they go up a millimeter? Because they can, because it's a fun change. They were responding a little bit to the market. And this is the first time I've seen Rolex really respond to the market in two things: going larger, and also I think they paid attention to the people who were complaining about the dimensions of the 16613. And even though it's a larger case, they did go back to the more tapered lugs on here, where it tapers more consistently from here to the bracelet. Still a beautiful Cerachrome bezel. It's such an iconic look now. Everybody is expecting that. It's just perfect as far as its construction. But the other very important thing with the 126613, this time they've changed the inside. Now there's a new movement in it. It's the 32-35 movement for the first time in many, many years. And what's interesting is there's not just a few changes. There's 90% of this movement is different or changed or improved from the 31-35. A lot of technical things, a lot of debates on what makes it better. But the main thing is, and probably the most important thing that would affect our clients, and you're wearing it, is that it has a 70-hour power reserve. So longer power reserve, much improved movement in it. More refined case with the tapered lugs, has gone back to that nice taper, much more elegant. Even though it's larger, it still wears very beautifully. So 3 different generations of Rolex steel and gold Submariners. We have them all here at Swiss Watch Expo. We'd love to show them to you. Make an in-store appointment, come in, and we'll sell you one of them. Or give us a call if you're not close by in Atlanta. We'll be happy to take care of you and get one sent out to you right away.